Hey, how are you all doing? I hope you're having a good day. I'm still getting myself set up a little bit. Let's turn it off. All right. Hello, welcome to Paint With Me Live. I'm glad to have you here. My name is Brittany Lewis. I'm a professional artist, a graphic designer, and illustrator, and tarot deck enthusiast, and all of the good things. And Sundays is the day that I work on my dream project, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, and today is no exception to Black Zetsu. How you doing? Hey PL, happy to see you guys and whoever else is in here with us, whether you're watching this live or the replay. I'm so glad to have you here. We're live today and we're starting a new card. So I did complete the Two of Cups, not Two of Cups, the Three of Wands, which was the card that we've been working on for the last few Sundays. And today we're starting a brand new card. We are going to be working on the Three of Cups, and I have actually began the process of sort of laying down some stick figures and some gesture drawing and things like that. So I'll kind of share with you a little bit about that process, as well as show you how I look for references for new cards and things like that. So without further ado, let's get into it. So before we get to the Three of Cups, not Three of Cups, I'm tangled up. The Three of Wands. I will not the Three of Wands. Goodness. Before we get to the Three of Cups, I said that right. I'm going to show you the Three of Wands. So here is the Three of Wands that we completed. So last Sunday we were leaving off with our sort of Stargate portal in the background. I also finished this piece up by completing the rocks in the foreground. So I'll zoom in for you guys to see that and what that looks like. So I did do this. Now, a few Sundays ago or a few live streams ago, I did share about the process of sort of learning your basic shapes. And that's probably going to be on the live stream with Sam and Lee, the very first one. We talked a little bit about finding your basic shapes and breaking illustrations down into basic shapes. And that is exactly what I did when I started to paint the rocks of this picture. I just kind of broke them down into cubes, but we did finish and finalize this piece. Now, a couple of things that I did off of live to finish this up and to give it a completed look. I did add some of the atmospheric colors into like our statue and into our column just to tie the scene together. I worked a little bit more on the sort of beacon that the gateway is giving off to give it a little bit more of a polished feel and look. And I did darken it so that it differentiates itself from the actual background so that it looks like there's something beyond this pyramid, right? Something beyond this shape, something that our main character is going into. And I think it came out really, really well. So in our reference box over to the left-hand side, this is the original Three of Wands from Pamela Coleman Smith in the Rider-Waite Smith deck. And ours follows a little bit, follows the tradition a little bit, but it does have that Cosmic Gateways flair. So we're going to get started in the Three of Cups. Now, before we do, I'll kind of give you guys a reminder of what the development of this looked like. Now, we did flesh out in my development sheet the not two. I don't know why I'm stuck on twos today, but the Three of Swords and the Three of Wands, and we just completed the Three of Wands. I decided to move forward with the Three of Cups because I had really no idea as to what I wanted to do, right? And so rather than go through the Three of Swords, which I didn't think was going to take me a whole lot of time to do, what I decided instead to do, and what I'll do really quickly is close this out so that we have a little more RAM on our computer. But what I decided to do was to lean into the one that I had the very barest of ideas for, and then I wanted to flesh that out. So this is just a reminder of what our development sheet looks like. The process of doing this, the process that I took to come up with the ideas for the cards was to first break the minor arcana cards down into the four suits. That would be cups, pentacles, wands, and swords. And I see that every time I notice we're frozen. I say, I hope y'all can hear me. I jump right back in. But anyhow, I broke the suits up to cups, pentacles, wands, and swords. And then I categorized each of those suits with their basic keywords, right? So just for the suits specifically. From there, we discussed a little bit of the elements, and then I broke it down into what the numerology would mean for each of the suits, what the number 3 means in tarot in general, and then what it means for each of the suits as it pertains to this particular deck, right? And so we went through that. Again, I did thumbnail and pretty much had a great idea of what I wanted to do for the Three of Wands as well as the Three of Swords. With the Three of Cups, I just kind of emulated or just resketched what I saw in the source material. But as I've been thinking about this card, Good. Thank you so much, Black Zetsu. He said the audio is still clear. I sure appreciate that because that's something I definitely worry about. But so we've, sort of made our way through this. So I just kind of sketched out the basic idea of the card. Now, as I was thinking about this, what came to mind for me was a coming of age ceremony. And because the Three of Cups to me means communication, community, it means it has sort of like a sisterhood vibe to it. It has very much friends and family connections, that kind of thing. And so whenever I am trying to figure out what to do for each card, I like to put it in context of an actual sort of scenario or actual event. So my idea became let's create a coming of age ceremony. So I only have stick figures here. I did not flesh this out. I was just sort of playing around with poses, and I'll continue that in this particular live stream, and I'll kind of show you a little bit about how I get into gesture drawing because it is just very, very basic at this point. I just kind of want to lay out how my characters are looking, what are they going to be doing, which was one of the things that I had a huge hang up about before I kind of got into sort of the narrative of the coming of age ceremony. I had to figure out what exactly did I want my characters to be doing. What does community look like? What could that represent? And of course, go through all of the ideas, and I landed on the coming of age ceremony. So I do have a few references, and I will show you a little bit because I do have a web page pulled up so I can show you just sort of what I'm looking for in terms of a reference for this, because I am constructing a story. I am constructing an image pretty much from scratch, right? So I'm not necessarily going to be drawing straight from reference. I'm not necessarily going to be copying anything specific. When I go to look for these references, the main thing that I'm going to be looking for is sort of the vibe of ceremonial dance, a vibe of, community and gathering and that sort of thing, and what I'm going for. And I'll show you a little bit about that. So in terms of references, and it might take a little bit of time to load up because there we go. In terms of references, what I wanted to sort of look for again were ceremonial dances, sort of just the party vibe atmosphere, but that gave also the sense of community. So the first image I came up on was a Nigerian wedding, which I thought was absolutely beautiful. I love the fact that the main character was very obviously the main character, and everyone was sort of celebrating around her. That is sort of the story that we're creating with the Three of Cups. I have my main character who will be probably well, let's lay out the story. So this is probably going to be a little girl who is coming into womanhood in this society, in this image, and her elder women are sort of celebrating and dancing around her. That is the narrative that we're creating in this story. Now, how it ends up looking, we'll sort of develop that over the next few Sundays. But that is sort of the basic sort of story that we're building, right? And so that was kind of inspired. Well, of course, I had the image in my mind, but I really enjoyed sort of how this image told a very similar story. There is a bride who is obviously getting married, and she has all of her support around her, celebrating her momentous occasion. Now, some of the other references that I gathered were specific to coming of age ceremony. So this one, I believe, was I want to say it was a Navajo. No, it was Apache. It was an Apache ceremony. So this is a coming of age. But the thing that I wanted to change about this was that I do enjoy that the little girl is kneeling, that I took and, added to my composition. I didn't necessarily enjoy the sort of somber seriousness of this image. And so I kind of wanted to tweak it and take it up a notch for our purposes of creating sort of a celebration. But I did like her garb. I did like how she was kneeling. And I did like the fact that she also had the community around her. Now, of course, I have some other, excuse me, dances and things like that from various cultures that we'll be borrowing from. Now, when it comes to this particular reference, as well as this one, what I'm mostly looking at is the color, right? Because we're creating sort of this celebratory image where our three elders are holding the cups. Our young woman is sort of kneeling down and she's being, blessed with all this positive energy. I like how no matter what culture I am looking at, they all sort of embrace very bright colors, right? So that is something that I want to kind of keep in mind as I design these characters, as I design this scene. I wanted to sort of have the same feel. So I'll show you a little bit. When I go to look for references, I do use a website called Pexels. Now, I like Pexels because all of the images here are pretty much royalty free, right? So you don't have to pay a license or anything like that. And if I were copying or using these images like straight out, I don't necessarily have to pay for them. And of course, I could just do it without dealing with like commercial licensing or anything like that. Because as a part of this particular service, you can get all of that absolutely free as long as you are downloading the license that comes with it. And one of the things that I like to do, because I've used quite a few Pexels images over the years, especially in publishing projects, is at the end of the books, I'll have like a bibliography where I will give credit to whoever the photographer is that puts their images on Pexels, right? So what I will be looking for and what I've already began to look for is ceremonial dances. And so the way that this works is that you pretty much just, go through, find the image that you like, and you can download them. And of course, you want to have the license as well, because these are all royalty free. Now, again, I'm not necessarily concerned about the purposes of the ceremonial dances from the images that I find. Moreover, or more importantly, what I'm looking for is sort of the vibe, right? I'm looking for the colors. I'm looking for elements within images that I can use within the image that we're creating in order for me to create and tell a similar story. Now, see, I am getting quite a few images and things like that. They're very interesting. And I like quite a lot of these. And if I were interested in downloading any one, what I would do is hover over it and I would click download. Or if I click the image itself, what it will do is give me the option of what size image I would like to download. And if I were using this one, for instance, I would probably only use it for the colors. But if I wanted similar images, then I would scroll down and they would give me similar images as well. So that is one of the resources that I like to use when it comes to finding references. And I'm going to put this over and I'll show you the other. The other is just regular degular Google. So what I did was type in the exact same keywords, ceremonial and religious dance. Now, when you're doing your Google search and you're looking for references through Google, you do want to be careful with any reference, right? If you're using something that is attributed to another creator, you want to make sure that if you're copying right out, like if you're just using this, let's say, for instance, I'm using the devil dance picture here. Off to my right says a devil dance, a life overseas. This image may be subject to copyright. That's something that you do want to pay attention to if you are creating something like, as a copy. Again, my purpose for looking for references for this image is not necessarily to find any one particular picture. What I am doing is sort of gathering information and gathering resources to create the vibe of the image that we're working on. So I just want to add a couple to my collection, and I'll show you sort of what I'm looking for. Again, I'm not really interested, or not so much not interested, but not really concerned about the purposes of the dances. I am much more interested in the colors, in the vibrancies, in the vibrancy of the colors and the outfits, also in the movement of the people, right? Because I am creating 3 dancers. So it's very, very important for me to sort of capture a certain movement, right? So something like the 5 must-see African ceremonial dances is a great one. I love how in this particular picture, and I'm not really sure if it's going to clear up or not, but in this particular image, there are 3 dancers on stilts. But what I really like is the sort of the skirts or the straw dress that they're wearing, because that's something that I can incorporate into the image. I think for now, I may sort of stick with what I have for now, but I did want to show you guys sort of what it looks like for me to go through the process of sort of gathering information so that I can flesh out the entire image, right? All right, so I'm going to put this back where I found it over here. And what we're going to do is continue building on this image. Now, I know a lot of people, I've run into a lot of people that are like, well, I can't draw a stick figure. All of my images begin as quite literally stick figures. And in this case, because I am not sort of emulating a specific picture, and I'm developing this image from scratch. One of the ways that I do that, one of the ways that I sort of find the style or sort of the pose for my characters is to do something called gesture drawing. In my case, what I do, and I will sort of turn off my main layer. I was kind of show you a little bit about what I do. Now, if you followed this project for a while, you may have seen the video of Temperance. Temperance is the card with the two celestials, and they're sort of in this very floaty, flowy position. They all started exactly like this. So what I will do is I'll say, okay, here's a head, right? And I want that body to sort of follow this curve, right? And from there, I know that the torso will sort of line up like this. The or not abdomen, but like the lower body, the hips, and the leg joints will sort of do something like this. This leg might come out here. From here, I can probably add just even more sort of movement. And this way we get some very flowy, very loose, poses, right? So that's very much the way that I am constructing the characters for the Three of Cups, right? All right, so for the time being, actually, you know what? I'm going to clear that instead of deleting it. We're going to clear that. And so that's pretty much what I've done. Now, I have a pretty good idea of what I want this character to do, right? I have a pretty good idea of what I want this character to do. Now, when it comes to this particular character, I was struggling a little bit because I didn't know whether or not I wanted her to be facing facing this way, right? Meaning we see the back of her head versus the front. But what I ended up settling with for now, because this may very well change, is having her face forward. Now, again, none of this is going to be pretty. You'll hear me say this a lot in the very beginning stages of drawing any of our cards. None of this is going to be pretty. All of this is going to be very loose, and we want to keep it that way. So what I'm doing now is I am lowering the opacity of our very initial sketch, and I'm going to label that rough sketch 1, right? And on top of that, I'm going to label this rough sketch 2. And then on top, what I'm going to do is I am going to start to tighten this up. Now, there aren't going to be any features, but we are going to sort of make final decisions about how we want these characters to look. Now, I see there are a couple of issues with our back character. Our main little girl, I think she's in pretty good shape, so I'm probably going to copy her over on this new layer, and then I'm going to work on building up more details within her. But I'll do that, sort of move around and make sure that there's a good flow and there's a good story within this image. All right, so let's start with our little girl. Of course, she is the easiest because she is sort of kneeling down. And when I'm doing this, I am keeping in mind proportions, right? So when you study anatomy and you're studying sort of how people are measured from head to toe, you will know that a head is pretty much your base measurement for the entire body, right? When we're drawing someone who is a bit younger, the heads tend to be a little bit bigger than your average adult. So we're going to follow that rule and make her head just a little bit bigger, just so that we can emphasize the fact that she is a lot younger. Her shoulders, if she were an adult, her shoulders would measure 1.5 heads, right? So from top to bottom, that's one head. And then if we were doing her shoulders would measure, right? This measurement in the half. Okay. But because she's a little girl, we can sort of fudge those measurements just a bit. Hey, Draw Sketchbook. Happy to see you here. Welcome, welcome. You can use those same measurements to sort of, because she's a little girl, we're not sort of going to be too concerned about getting accurate measurements, because we know that since she's younger, we don't have to do as much, in terms of keeping things tall and 7 heads and all of that. We know that her torso is going to be a little bit shorter than an adult. Her arms are going to be here, and I do want her arms to sort of rest in her lap. Right now, I do have a vision for this little girl. I want her to have like a flower crown on, so I'm just going to indicate that with a little, just something like this. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Again, we're not really concerned too much for detail, so much as we are concerned with making sure that our layout, making sure that our composition is where we want it to be. Right. So now, if this is her torso, because she's a little girl, she's not going to have super wide hips, but because she is kneeling, they are going to protrude just a bit. Right. We're going to, her torso would sort of end like this. And then because, again, she is sort of kneeling on her knees, her knees are going to do something a bit like this. Again, we don't have to be super precise. We don't have to be super fancy because by the time we put her in her ceremonial outfit, you may not even see her knees, right? We may have her in a bit of a dress. We may have her in something else that'll sort of cover up some of these details. I know for sure our dancers are going to be in things that are going to allow me to fudge some of the details, right? So I don't have to concern myself with like the knees and things like that. All right, so that's our main little girl. Now for each person, I think what I'm going to do is, do I want to add a new layer? I think I am. For now, we're going to add a new layer. We might combine these layers. So I'm going to work on our next lady. Now I did, I guess, decide that I want to have this particular character here. Now, before we do, let me go back to my little girl. What I would like to do is go ahead and place her facial lines, right? Now, I can do a couple of things. I can either have her where she is sort of looking up, right? And so this will be her eye line. This would be like her neck. So she's sort of looking up in bliss, something like this, and her nose and mouth will go, right? Something like that. Or I can have her where she's still smiling, but looking more downward, I guess. So let's play around with that and see how we like it. We do want to have her looking more straight on, right? And I do sort of want her to be in a meditative sort of eyes closed, but instead of having like the very serious look on her face like the young Apache woman in our reference, I want her to be smiling. I want her to be enjoying this. I don't want this to feel like she's being sacrificed. You know what I mean? I don't want that to be the vibe. So we do want to have her sort of smiling. I do want to create that energy in this card, right? And let me make myself a little bit smaller so you guys can see this better. There we go. All right. So that's sort of what we're going for, right? All right. So now with our second lady, and these are all women, and I do want them to all be, maybe one is her big sister, maybe one is her grandmother, and we lean into the mother maiden in crone sort of scenario, and they're just sort of baptizing this young woman into their sisterhood, and they're having this sort of sense of community. That is something I want to lean into. Now, in this case, because we do have this character facing forward, I do want her face to be at a 3/4 sort of view, right? So I want her to look a little bit like this, but I do want her also to be smiling. And then I want her cup. So let's work a little bit better on the proportions. So I think her shoulders will be wider, right? So this is going to be where her arms are. Do this. Clean this up a bit. Because her torso may be facing this way, right? You got her rib cage, something like this. You may be seeing a little bit of her side. All right. And then rather than see her arm sort of over on this side, like we kind of did a minute ago, it's going to be off to the side. But I want her to actually have a tambourine in her hand, right? I want her to be carrying a tambourine, and that is what this circle represents. This is going to be her holding a tambourine. And I do want to exaggerate her hips a bit. So I have her sort of, actually, you know what, wrong shape. And again, we're going to see just a little bit of her side, but I do want to exaggerate her hips. So where I have our initial leg line sort of in, I'm going to pull it over just a bit, right? And this is going to represent her thigh, then her calf, something like that. And then we're just going to lay out some blocks for her foot, sort of like this. And then again, because we're exaggerating this just a little bit, not a whole lot, but we are exaggerating just a bit, because her leg is, she's got a thick little leg here. We may not see so much of her right leg, right? So we can take this out and make her leg, her butt fit. I don't want her to look like she's got a bad BBL. There we go. Something like that. And again, we're just laying down some super duper loose lines. as we draw out this dancer. And because her legs are thicker, her ankle it may not be where we placed it originally. And her foot, forgive this ugly shape, it kind of looks like maybe she has a little bit of fluid on her ankles. We don't want to do that. So we want to do something like this. And we're just laying in again basic shapes, right? And we'll clean this up a bit. And then, of course, her arm, we'll keep this pretty loose, right? Her elbow here, she's raising her cup. And we'll do cups just to symbolize them. Similar to our, for now, they're going to be similar to our Pamela Coleman Smith cups, just so that we have a cup, right? Now, where this vertical line is here, that's going to represent the border of our Cosmic Gateways Tarot. Okay. So we do want to be mindful of that. Like, I don't want to put another vertical line right up against it because it's going to look weird to the eye. But what we do want to do is sort of be mindful of that, because anything that sort of goes out past this is going to have a line running through it, right? All right. So we have her arm here, have her cup here, right? Something like that. All right. So the next person, maybe this lady on her right hand side is posed a little bit different. Right, I do kind of like the basis of this particular pose. I want her to look like she's reaching out. Maybe she has some sage or something. Maybe she has some Palo Santo or some magical flowers and herbs and things like that. So I'm just going to put in an indication of that sort of situation. We do have her side view. So we have her back. We'll have her chest, something like this. Right? And then we will go ahead and put in her torso. And again, this may not be great because we're starting sort of with our stick figures. But maybe her dance, maybe her legs are placed like this, right? All right. So maybe we do something like this. All right. And so this will sort of be how I began to lay out these characters. Now, I did have a little bit of trouble with her foot when I was doing the stick figure version of this. So I think what I'm going to do is maybe add I don't know. How would her foot be? So this one is, if she's on her toes here, right? Let's say she's on her toes, right? Something like this. Then she could probably have this foot be something like this. And because I know the proportions of that is weird, what I'm going to do is take my lasso tool. We're going to move that up. Something like that. And we'll clean this up as we go. Again, this doesn't necessarily have to be the most beautiful pose in the world. I just want to get the bases in so that I can come back and finish the story. And because we know that we have a character here and we have this first cup sort of raised in that same space, we want to make sure we're not covering up anything super important with our backmost character. And again, we're just going to draw in the basic cup. All right, so we have our musical instrument here. We have our sort of flowers or sacred smoke or whatever we decide there. And then behind them with our third character. Hey, Psycho Chick, how are you doing? Psycho Chick says, I would do the kneeling woman as the grandmother and the others giving, I like that, giving her their energy to help her with an illness kind of thing. You know what? I like that you said that. And that was actually something that I thought. Hey, Montreal, how are you? Psycho Chick, back to what your point was. I really like that idea. I think that I do. I like that idea. And since we're in the sort of the development of this, I may very well consider it. Right now, I'm sort of going with the coming of age story. So this would be like a 12-year-old who maybe just got her first cycle or something like that. And so there she's surrounded sort of by her elders. But I love that. So that might be something that we switch. I'm all for a good pivot. So we're going to see how this goes. I love that a lot. Okay. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm so glad to have you guys here. All right. We got a house today, full house. I love that. All right. Okay. Now, last lady, right? Again, we're not making anything super duper fancy or anything. So all this is gonna be terribly ugly right now, right? But we'll sort of get there as we go. All right. So our last character. Now, in terms of going with the sort of coming of age narrative, in my mind, I was thinking maybe this back character would be the grandmotherly figure, so that she would be sort of the crone figure. The big sister might be the maiden, and the mom might be the what is it? Shoot, I'm getting tangled up. Oh, we got quite a few people in here. Hey, y'all. It would be the mother, the maiden, the crone, right? So she would be the mom, she would be the crone, this would be the maiden. So we'll see, right? We'll kind of see how it goes. But as we auto save and as you guys are coming in really quickly, I'll give you a rundown of what this deck is all about as it auto saves and gets this thing going. So the Cosmic Gateways Tarot was a project that I started in 2019. These are the cards so far, right? So a lot of very feminine energy. I love that. A lot of balance in this. Balance comes up quite a bit in these cards. And so when it came time to create the Three of Cups, we do want to sort of keep things in flow with that. So I think, man, those are great ideas. Okay. All right, back to it. It's finished saving. All right. So now our back character, right? She's holding her cup sort of up towards where the numbers will go. So the numbers will go something like this, right? So we want to make sure that nothing we're doing is sort of interfering with our composition. But in this case, because we want to give some movement, maybe we'll sort of tilt her shoulders up, right? So maybe her shoulders are tilted and maybe she's really getting down, right? So she has her torso here. We have our cup shape here, nothing super fancy again. And the cups, as you guys may notice, I don't know if you guys saw in the video, the cups look all kinds of ways. The cups are, I have some chalices in this particular deck. I know the Queen of Cups is holding sort of a singing bowl. I have no idea yet what our King of Cups is going to be holding. So the cups they show up in a whole bunch of different ways. I guess vessels would probably be the best name for the cups of the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. But for now, I think we'll do it like this. So now we have her shoulders tilted this way. Maybe we have her hips tilted this way. And then her leg comes down like this. Again, all of this is sort of stick figures. And to create a little bit of dimension, rather than bring her legs way down to meet our other two characters, we're going to have them somewhat at the hip of our main sort of figure, central kneeling figure, right? So something like this, we want to keep everything in proportion. And then you may not see much of the back leg, but we'll sort of put the indication that she has a foot here, right? Something like that. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to merge all of those things. This is our original sketch, so we're going to keep that there. I am going to go over to my layers panel, which is on my right. So you guys right side of the screen. I'm going to grab all of those things that we just did, and we're going to go over it again, right? So I am going to combine all of that. I'm going to set it to multiply, and what multiply will do is multiply will allow me to see whatever I draw underneath it, right? Even though right now we're going to be drawing on top, multiply is sort of my go-to blend mode, right? All right, so let's work on our center figure because I think she's going to be the easiest to sort of tackle. And I think we're going to call this a pretty short live stream, but I'm happy to see you guys here. So whether you're watching this live or the replay, I really, really appreciate you for being here. It means a lot. Like I said, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot for me is sort of my dream project. It is something that I've been working on for so long. I'm honestly quite ready to have it done so that you guys can have this in your hands as well as tell me what you like, what you how you connect to the cards, right? I'll say it like that. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use a ruler to do her face. I don't have to have a ruler, but it'll kind of save us a little bit of time as we do this. So now over to my right hand side again, above our layers, is going to be our sub tool for the ruler, and the ruler that I'm going to pick is going to be the symmetry ruler. Now, based on where I put the lines, specifically the vertical line in her face, I'm going to put my ruler there. And what that's going to do is allow me to draw so that whatever I draw on one side is going to appear on the other. Okay. All right. So I'm going to, let's see, what did I do? Wrong thing. Before I do that, I need to do a new layer. And then I'm going to lay down my symmetry ruler. And I'm going to call this layer, this is going to be her face. All right. Now, when it comes to drawing children specifically, you want to keep in mind that everything in the head is going to be a little bit bigger than it would be in an adult, right? So if we were to let's look at for really quickly our page of swords and our page, not our page, our strength card, because both of those are the same character at different ages, right? All right, so I'm going to pull that up for you guys to see, and then I'll show you how we will go about, drawing a child's face versus drawing an adult's face. So it's slightly different. With children, what you want to keep in mind is that the eyes are usually bigger, the noses are usually smaller, and the mouths are usually smaller, right? Whereas when we're drawing an adult, everything is proportionate. So if we were drawing a face from here to the bottom of our chin, we would measure, I like to measure based on your eyes, right? So if I take off my glasses, what I would like to do is, if I'm drawing, I'll measure sort of tip to tip how wide my eye is. I'll start there, right? From this side of my face to this side of my face, it measures 5 complete eyes. 5, right? So even if I turn to the side, it's still sort of the same measurement. Maybe on this side, because you see more of the side of my face, the 5 eyes sort of stretch, but there are 5, your face is going to be 5 eyes across. From the corner of your eye to the bottom of your nose is 1 eye, the same length, and you can actually take your finger, measure your eye, sort of spin it upside down, measure the corner of your eye to the bottom of your nose as 1 eye. From the bottom of your nose to the crease in your lips, that's another eye. From the bottom of your lips to the bottom of your chin is 1 eye, and up forward you might have 2 eyes depending on the size of your forehead. Right? But when we're doing children, it's a slightly different sort of unit of measurement. We can still sort of use our eyes, but we will sort of exaggerate a little bit how big some of our proportions are. So I'll show you just a second. We're going to open this particular reference, and then I'll show you an adult reference just to give you an idea of how these measurements work, right? All right, there's our page of This is our page of swords. So in this particular image, the eyes are huge, right? So it doesn't necessarily equate to 5 eyes because that would mature our character, right? Now, if we were to open up, let's see if we can open up another image, and this one is going to be based on an adult. This one is probably going to be, I'll show you one based on an actual person. I'll show you how that works really quickly, and then we'll measure it out just to give you an idea of how measurements in portraits specifically work. And it doesn't really matter whether or not you're drawing from reference, like if you're drawing an actual person or if you're drawing a character, right? It sort of works pretty much the same. And of course, once you master the basics of drawing, anatomy, then you can exaggerate it and push and pull and play as much as you like, right? All right, so let's see if we can get an image here. It's not too big. I tell you what, let me do this. And I don't know if you guys can hear, but my cat is cutting up in the background. He is cutting up. All right. So this is a portrait that I did back in October, right? All right. So if we're measuring out the eyes on this, The eyes are not quite as big. And of course, this is slightly different because this isn't a character, this is an actual person. But if we were to measure the length of his eye from this point here to this point here, it'll measure roughly 5 eyes across, right? And if we were to measure up and down, like we said, from the corner of your eye to the bottom of your nose, the measurements are still the same. So again, with children, we exaggerate a little bit. Their eye sizes, we make the noses a little bit smaller, we make the mouths a little bit smaller, and with adults we're more proportional, right? All right, so I'm actually going to keep her up. I'm going to take him off. I'm actually going to use her as a basis, not necessarily trying to draw the same character, but that'll kind of give me an idea of where to keep, again, the proportions and things like that. All right, back to our symmetry. Now, I do have our symmetry ruler set up, and I'll show you again what that looks like. The other thing to keep in mind with the eyes of children is that they're going to be further apart than your regular adult. So I'm going to make my ruler just a bit smaller. So here, whatever I draw on my left-hand side is going to show up on my right-hand side. Now, already I'm sort of seeing a little bit of wonkiness in the line placements. It doesn't necessarily work as well as I would like. So what I'm going to do is sort of redraw her eye line. Tighten it up just a bit. All right. And then what we'll do is go ahead and place her eye, because I don't necessarily want her to be looking up. We could try it. Maybe we will. We can try it. And maybe we can even make them just a bit bigger. Right? That's if we are going for her maybe looking up, right? Then her nose is going to be up a little bit higher than it would be if we were, again, drawing an adult. I'll tell you what I'm going to do is start with a circle, and then I'm going to turn off my ruler because I really don't need it now. We're going to just draw in her mouth, and maybe we have her mouth open, sort of similar to our Page of Swords, right? Now, I think as I zoom out, I think I kind of want her to sort of be looking down, but I do want her to be smiling. And that kind of saves me quite a bit of time, because if I do it that way, then I don't have to worry about pupils and things like that. I can just sort of draw in her eye lines. Right? And then I can make her face nice and round, right? So that we're emphasizing her youth. And of course, because she is a kid, she's 12. Maybe she's maybe she's getting her first, menstrual cycle. She's going through her coming of age ceremony. And these squiggly lines represent flowers that I'll kind of bring in later. So let's give her some hair, right? I think what I would like to do is sort of give her maybe an afro. I'm a fan of like afro pup. No, you know what? I know what I want to do. I don't want to do an afro. I kind of want to do braids. Maybe we do. All right, maybe we'll do some braids that sort of come down like so. And then that way we can sort of emphasize, put some little football in. And maybe this sort of helps us to emphasize her age, right? And again, none of this has to be exceptional right now. what I'll probably do here in a bit, as soon as we end our lives, I'll probably work on this for another hour or so. And then next Sunday, we should have a completed sketch that we can begin to color. And we're going to be using a lot of the color references that we found, sort of looking at ceremonial dances and different cultures and things like that. Because one of the things that I'm really, really proud of with Cosmic Ways Tarot is one thing is really important to me to have it feel very cultural, right? So not only is it sci-fi influenced and Afrofuturistic and all those things, but I also want to sort of highlight the various cultures of the diaspora, just people in general, specifically the diaspora, and then just create stuff that I want to see, right? So maybe I don't speak to one specific society, but I am sort of creating, my own story. And I think each card, because tarot is very image heavy, right? It's super duper image based. Each card is an opportunity to tell a new story. And so I really love that. And so, Psycho Chick, I think your idea is one that I'll probably use. I hope you don't mind. I'll probably use that a little bit later, for sure, especially when it comes to like, I don't know, maybe when it comes to maybe the Six of Cups, because that deals with nostalgia. So maybe we have our grandmother being juiced up by her, her offspring in that way. We'll see. We'll sort of play around with it a bit. And again, these are flowers, and I'll sort of find I might even reuse a flower crown, because I have a flower crown on my Empress card. So maybe we'll repurpose that and add it here. I'm not really sure how I feel about her face just yet, but we'll see. What I do want to do is, with our page of sword is showing up in our reference material, as well as my strength card, I do like the sort of the red face paint. I love that, right? So maybe she has red face paint. I'm not really loving the slant of her eyes. Maybe she's blindfolded. I don't know. That could be a thing too. But again, I don't want this to feel like a sacrifice. So there's something that I have to sort of keep in mind. I do want this to feel like, she is finally sort of coming of age, right? So we'll do something like this. Just for now, right? We want to keep her, might make her nose a bit smaller. So what I'll do, instead of redrawing the whole thing, is I will select it with my lasso tool, and then I will use transform, and I'll make it just a bit smaller. Not so small, but just a little bit. Did I do anything? Let's see. Oh. Okay, let me try it again. All right. We'll zoom in so that I can play with the nuance just a little bit. I'm holding Shift and Alt on my keyboard. I'm working on a Mac machine, but I'm using a Windows keyboard. And so the buttons I use to sort of scale that evenly with Shift and Alt. And I'll sort of play her face just a little bit. Maybe I do want to give her sort of indication that she's smiling. Now, what we could also do is open her mouth a bit. Maybe not quite as wide as our page of swords, but just a bit for her to acknowledge that she's having a good time. Right? And what I would do, I don't know if this is weird or not, and I'm hoping I'm not making too many faces. If I'm trying to draw a specific face, I will actually make the face as I'm drawing. I guess that is to feel sort of the muscles of what it feels like to smile, what it feels like to frown, or be, that kind of thing. And really was one of the reasons I decided not to work on the Three of Swords was what I was going to work on, because I tend to channel whatever emotion I'm trying to evoke as I'm drawing. And because that one is such a heavy card, even though the symbolism is just the heart and the swords, I didn't want to have to like rethink up what heartbreak feels like, because that card deals a lot with heartbreak. I didn't want to have to challenge that. I was like, let me see if I can work on something that will feel a little bit better to have to deal with, right? Feel a little bit better to, emphasize. So we have this little girl. She's a young lady now. Not a little girl. She's a young lady, right? All right. I do want her arms to sort of, let's see, we're drawing her torso because she's a kid. Let me see. Let me zoom just a bit. We'll use our page. Now she's a little bit older than our page sword. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pull up strength. Now, again, this is not the same little girl in strength. We have used this little girl in strength. We've used her in the page of swords, and we've also used her in the three of wands, which is the card that we just finished doing. Then I don't want this to be the same little girl, but because the ages and things like that are not the same, I do want to use her body type as a reference. Another thing that I could do, of course, is to use reference images of a little girl of the same age. I can also use the 3D models that are found in Clip Studio Paint, which is the program that I'm using to sketch in to help me out with that. But for the time being, because I already have this picture drawn, I think what I'm going to do is, as soon as I can find it, pull up strength, and we'll sort of use her, because I would say they're about the same age, right? I would say they are about 12 years old or so. So it says that I'm having connection issues, so I'm hoping that you guys can still hear me and see me very well. This happens. I don't know why it does, but it does. But this is strength. So about strength's age, right? He's sort of a slightly different experience, because with strength we have a character who is having to go through sort of a metamorphosis in a different capacity. So the story of strength is that she is sort of coming out of this darkness where she had to sort of go in and face, these beings and demons and inner things like that, all of her shadows and all of that, right? And she comes out a lot stronger, right? So she starts off as our page of swords, who is excited and raring to go, and she has this very innocent look about her. By the time she gets to strength's age, she is a little bit more mature, right? So her journey is a little bit different than the journey of our character in the Three of Cups. But I would say in terms of body type, we're going to make them about the same because they are the same age, all right? All right. Now, I'm not going to be drawing in hands and all of that. I'm not going to do that. But we'll sort of draw in, her torso and things like that. And this is actually where my symmetry ruler would come in handy, because I wouldn't have to do so much. All right. Be able to keep it, because she's pretty much, her pose is not quite as dynamic as some of our dancers, right? So we don't have to worry so much about having too many differences. We do want to make sure that she's pretty symmetrical. Her elbow is going to be about right here. So we have her biceps, we have her forearms, and then if I were to, we don't want to make her super broad. Let me zoom out a little bit. Make sure it's smaller. Zoom out. I have her sort of shoulders a little wider than I think I would like. But for the time being, how do I want to let's do her kneeling right now, because I'm not really entirely sure about how I want to do this, her top part. I'm going to skip over it for now, because I still have my guidelines from when we did our rough sketches. So for the time being, I'm not going to focus too much attention there, because I can still use that information. But we are sort of cleaning up her shape, right? And then what I will do is, after we sort of lay her in, I might even do the face of maybe this character. Not both of them, but the one with the tambourine. I may work on her face a little bit, and then we'll go live stream. So I'm hoping that am I blurry? Child, I'm having all kinds of stuff going on. Let's see. Is it gonna show up? Nope. Oh, like, there we go. Okay, well, what else? I hope you guys can still hear me if you can't see me just the same. All right. Okay, so we have our villain character, right? And it's still, that's weird. There we go. All right. There we go. Ooh. All right. we had our character. Okay, so what I'll probably do is sort of work on the indication of this flower crown. Maybe we'll call back to our high priestess card, and I know that she had sort of the sun ray crown, so maybe that sort of adds a little bit of razzle dazzle to our young lady. So I really like those crowns. All right. Something like this. She has a central one like this. So we know that she is our guest of honor. Alrighty. Again, I'm not really sure what I'm going to have her wearing. Also, not really sure how I want to approach sort of her torso. So we're just going to ignore that for now. We're going to ignore it for now. We're going to keep our bare bones there. We're just going to move on, right? All right. So this is our main character. We're going to move on to this particular character. I don't necessarily know what she's going to be wearing, right? I don't know if I'm going to have them in dresses. I don't know if I'm going to have them in. I don't know if I'm going to have my dancers matching. Maybe I will. Maybe she's being initiated into something. I don't know. But for the time being, what I do want to focus my attention on is make sure that I have their anatomy right. And from there, I can always add like costume and styling and stuff like that. All right. So now, if we're approaching the recorded view, this is an adult. I do want to be mindful of how far apart the eyes and things like that are, a little bit more so than I was with my main character, because we're not going to exaggerate too much. Now, this is, I do consider my style to be a stylized realism. I'm not going for photorealistic, features or anything like that. Nothing like the portrait that we showed earlier of the man in the the Dia de Muertos makeup. I'm not sort of aiming for that. What I am aiming for is just sort of believability, right? That's sort of how I approach it. I am aiming for whether or not this feels like an actual person. The mind will do is pick up on what doesn't feel right, right? So no matter how it looks, no matter what the style is of the artist that you are, the art that you're consuming, if it doesn't look or feel right, we'll pick up on it pretty quickly. So we're just going to put a circle to indicate the nose. And again, I want this character to be smiling. So we'll see a little less of the front of her face. We'll see the front of her face, but sort of at an angle, right? Actually, going to start that over. Let's start over. Now, typically what I will do is not do this live. Typically, this sort of part of the process is done sort of in the comfort of, not being live. But I have we've been doing live streams now since June of 2024. So slowly but surely, I have been sort of getting much more comfortable with drawing in front of you guys. It's still a little bit nerve-wracking, just a little bit, right? I think one of the easiest ways to sort of gain confidence in something like this is to just be vulnerable. That is, you're gonna make mistakes, right? It's sort of how it goes. It's not always going to be perfect, and that's totally okay, right? I have a huge body of work on this particular channel, so the skills are there. So we don't necessarily have to prove ourselves. Even if the skills weren't there, you don't necessarily have to prove yourself to the next person. Just enjoy the process, right? Right now, I'm probably making features big. I would like to do this zoomed out, but for my vision's sake, I think I am going to work on it a little bit closer. And see, you don't look happy, you're frowning. So let's fix that. There we go. And it's okay to make mistakes, right? You guys who have been with me for a minute have seen me run through mistakes. Like drinking water. I will make a mistake, and that's totally okay. Now I don't know how I like her face. I don't think I do. So I'll keep tweaking it and playing around with her features and things like that until I get something that I'm pleased with. So her body is in a more saucy sort of pose. And because she is a woman, you don't want her features to be super, super sharp. Sort of, I don't want it to be that round either. You want to find the happy balance. And whatever I'll need to resize based on the rest of her body, we'll be able to do that. Right? In terms of hair, how do we want her to look? No idea. But we are using that rough sketch that we created earlier as sort of a basis for the proportion of her face. And again, if I don't like how it's shaping up, I just kind of tweak it. And I'll let the faces pretty much develop themselves, right? So rarely am I ever, when I'm creating characters like this, rarely am I ever sort of modeling it after anyone in particular. So great example of this. Sometimes I'll have happy accidents where the things will look like the people anyway. A couple of examples of how that has happened for me throughout this deck are the Hermit, which a lot of people compare to Tupac. I did not mean for it to look like that. Just sort of how it happened. And the Queen of Cups, who a lot of people compare to Janae Aiko. I'm hoping I'm saying her name right. I did not in any way, shape, or form intend for it to be like that. But sometimes it happens like that. Sometimes I'll just sort of let the face develop and, whatever comes of it, comes of it. And we'll see how it goes from there, right? So her neck, we don't want it to be super duper thick. We don't want it to feel super thin out of the way either. And sort of through that. She's getting a robot right now because we don't really have many details just yet. But while my computer is, I'll say what it is, and I'll show you guys again some of the images from the Cosmic Gateway Tarot. And I'm gonna show you as soon as this plays through. I'm gonna show you the Hermit and the Queen of Cups, so you can kind of see how these happy accidents work. Now they're not always the way that I want them to look. I let the faces form themselves. All right. So for instance, the Queen of Cups, and I'm moving my mouse, like y'all can see me moving my mouse, but the Queen of Cups is at the top right corner. A close-up of that, people were like, have you seen Janae Aiko's sound bowl videos? Like, what? Had no idea. It just worked out that way, right? Same with the Hermit. Same thing where people are like, that looks a lot like Tupac. I'm flattered. I guess I'm glad it looks like someone, which is important because again, I'm sort of letting these faces sort of just, develop as they do. So that is the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. Again, if you're new here, I really appreciate you being here, watch this live with me, whether you're watching live or the replay. I thank you so much. I'm happy that I am able to sort of show you the process of creating these images. Again, this one looks a little, you know what she reminds me of, and I might be showing my age. She reminds me of not Judy Jetson. What was the name of the robot on the Jetsons? Whatever the name was, this looks like to me. right now. That's exactly what she looks like. So we're going to work that out a little later. But I do appreciate you all for watching this. One of my biggest fears was sort of drawing publicly and allowing myself to be vulnerable in that way. But I think, again, practice and sort of being okay with making mistakes is a huge deal when it comes to, continuing this process and continuing to show up and be myself, right? So if you are an artist, if you're an artist, if there's something that you really want to do, you have to sort of be okay with things not always working out the way that you want to, and just power on, right? Just keep it going, just keep things moving, and just show up and be consistent anyway, right? it's sort of a testament to these live streams. And we've got quite a few. Again, I've been doing this almost every Sunday. I think I've only missed two. I've only missed 2 Sundays where I wasn't streaming, whether that was me doing an interview or working on the Content Gateways Tarot. So there are lots and lots and lots of content when it comes to live streaming. It's sort of watching how this develops over the past several months. And so it's been truly a joy. I do look forward to these Sundays. And today was one of those days where I was like, I'm not really sure I feel up to it, but because this is something that I enjoy so much, it always sort of is an instant mood boost. So again, I really appreciate anybody who's here watching, and shout out to you, Psycho Chick. Shout out to House Sketchbook, Black Zetsu. Shout out to you, Montreal. I really appreciate you all for stopping by and watching. And if I didn't name you, if I didn't see you guys in the chat, I'm again super duper happy to have you here. It means a lot to me. All right, so I'm not doing much here. I probably will stop it here for a bit, and I'll probably continue to work on this for a while because I'm seeing some anatomy issues that I'll clean up a little bit later. I don't know if I fit too up live. I could. We could keep going on this, but I think I'm going to call it a day. So again, thank you so much for everyone who has stopped by. Thank you for everyone who came into the chat. Thank you so much, So Chick, again, for such a wonderful suggestion. I really appreciate it, and I'm always open to suggestions. So if you have one as we're working, please don't be afraid to drop that down in the chat. I super duper really appreciate it. So without further next week, we should have a complete sketch on my end showing the next issues. I'm hoping that you guys can hear me okay. There it is, PL. Thank you so much. I know the sound is wonky. I don't know for whatever reason it does this, but I sure appreciate you again. And again, shout out to you, PL. Shout out to you, Montreal. Shout out to you, Psycho Chick, and Draw Sketchbook, and Black Zetsu, and everyone who has stopped by. And I want to wish you all a creative process week. Any suggestions that you have, please leave them in the comments. Please make sure you like the video because it helps me out a whole lot. And I cannot wait to see you next week as we continue with the 3 of Cups. So without further ado, peace.